Welcome back. Today we will be looking at using gameplay tags to manage our combat state. But first we need to upgrade our project. So 4.20.1 of UE4 is out, and the Open World Starter plugin has been updated. So this is version 2018-0729. So you want to download that file and make sure that you have 4.20.1 updated on your Unreal Editor. And then we are going to go into that zip file, and we're going to go to plugins. We're going to grab this OWS plugin folder and hit copy. Go back out of this zip file, come over into our project, plugins, delete the one that's there, and paste in the new one. And that's all we have to do for this update. It was fairly simple. Okay, let's load our project. There is a new feature for gameplay abilities in this plugin that we're going to make use of today. So it was an update to make the plugin work with 4.20.1, and then also a new gameplay ability feature that is going to allow us to modify the damage path using blueprints. Prior to this update, you had to write a few lines of C++ code to do it. But now we're able to do it in blueprints, which is just going to be nice. Load up our levels. Okay, and let's build some gameplay tags. We're going to ability system, abilities, my gameplay tags table. And here's what we're going to create. We had a suggestion from a user. It's Celino Perry. I hope I pronounced that right. But he asked if we could take a look at using gameplay tags to handle a water volume where a player running through it gets wet. And I thought that was a great idea. So we're going to take a look at that. And he also had another question here about a gameplay ability that has stacking debuffs and then another ability that consumes them. We might take a look at that in a future video. We'll see. That's a bit of an advanced topic. And then he also asked about root motion anims. So the game that we're working on, we initially started using root motion anims, and everything seemed great until we tried to play it with a lot of people over the internet, and the whole thing fell apart. And so we have stopped using root motion anims. My recommendation would be never use them. The problem that we ran into that we were just never able to get around is the fact that if two clients use root motion anims to put them into the same space to occupy, the server had no clue what to do and the whole thing crashed. So I would stay away from root motion animations. Okay, so what we're going to do here, we're going to go a bit further on the wet. We're going to create a volume that when you enter it, you get a standing in water tag, okay? And then when you exit it, you get a wet tag that expires after 20 seconds. Okay? So let's add some tags for that. So I like to call these combat.state. And we're going to have one called standing in water. Put player is standing in water. If you think about it, these gameplay tags can be used to replace all of those Boolean values, those is this, is that values on your character. All of them can be replaced with these gameplay tags. And we've got combat.state.wet. The player is wet. And then what we're going to do with these gameplay tags is we are going to say that if the ability that's hitting this person, right, the damage that's hitting this person is of type electric damage, so we're going to have this combat.damage type. I highly recommend using gameplay tags for all your damage types. As you'll see later, it's very easy to code custom damage paths based on the damage type. So we're going to call it electric. Put electric damage type. So what we're going to do is that if we get hit with electric damage and we're standing in water, it's going to be 100% crit chance. And then if we get hit with electric and we're just wet, we're going to double whatever the base crit chance was. So that's what we're going to create. So we need to create the gameplay abilities. So I like to create a folder called Combat States. You end up with a lot of these over time, and I usually use the naming convention apply and remove. So I'm going to add one here called, we're going to use the base gameplay ability. I'm going to call it apply standing in water. This would be a great spot to have a base gameplay ability that all it does is apply a tag, and then you inherit from it 50 times, one per tag. You could totally do that. we're gonna just build this as is though. Okay, so apply standing in water, and this is going to be a pretty simple ability. Always commit, and then we are going to apply gameplay effect. You might ask, why are we using a gameplay effect? And the reason is that a gameplay effect is one of the best ways to deal with managing tags on ability system components. It just works really well. You can directly apply tags and remove tags, but as you'll see, the gameplay effects gives us a lot of things that can help make adding and removing them simpler, as well as give us a lot of other options like kicking off gameplay cues, modifying attributes. There's just a lot of things we can do. Let's say that it wasn't water and it was lava, and we needed to tick periodic damage. No problem. We turn on tick periodic damage, set the how often it ticks, and set the tick amount, and we're good. So there's lots of things we can do. It's very flexible. We don't have a gameplay effect class yet, so we have to build one. And then we're going to end the ability. First thing we always want to come in here and do is class defaults, instance per actor. No, the client cannot cancel, and that looks good. And this is the standing in water. So we're going to make it so that you either have the standing in water or the wet, but never both. So what we're going to do here, we also want to make sure that it can't keep applying multiple times. So what we're going to say is that if you have apply standing in water already, then this is blocked. So we're going to come in here and say damage type state. So if you already have standing in water, do not run this again. You've already got it. You must already be standing in water. The reason we have to do that, those volumes, those events where you're entering or exiting a volume, they like to fire a lot of times, not just once. Even if you cleanly run through the barrier and don't sit there and bounce back and forth, they'll still fire a few times. It's annoying. We could latch them, but that's basically what we're doing here, is latching it with this activation. Okay, we'll leave that open, and then let's see, we're going to have another one here called gameplay ability. And we're going to call it, well, let's call it remove standing in water. Not actually what it does, but it might make it seem a little simpler. And we're going to create some gameplay effects. First one is going to be standing in water effect. And the next one is going to be wet effect. Okay. And standing in water effect, it shouldn't open this. The blueprint, these blueprints are static. You can't do any blueprints in them anyway. Standing in water effect. Okay, so this one is infinite because it lasts for as long as you're standing in the water. Now we're going to come down here And we're going to use the granted tag and state standing in water. And as I'll show you later, I usually also go here and add standing in water to the asset. So these tags are on the effect. These tags will end up on your ability system component on your character. Okay, this is the standing in water. So what we also want to do is we want to make sure that if you were wet, but then you move back into standing in water, that we remove the wet, right? We don't want two at a time. So we're going to go here and say we want to remove gameplay effects. This added and removed is confusing. Remove does not mean remove, and add does not mean add. It means that how they roll up into combined tags and how they roll up with their inherited parents. So add and remove doesn't mean add or remove. That took me a while to figure out. But it's basically going to remove gameplay effects with tags, and we want to use added. And so what's going to happen here is that when this runs, it will automatically go find that gameplay effect with the wet tag, and which means that it's this effect asset tag, not the granted tag, which is why we're putting it in both places. And that will automatically remove it for us. We don't need to modify any modifiers here. This isn't poisonous water, so we don't need to take any damage with this periodic. And we're going to go here to our wet effect. And pull this over. Okay, this one is not infinite. This one has a duration, and we're going to say that you're wet for 20 seconds after you leave the water volume. And we're going to come down here, and we're going to add our wet effect here, add our wet effect here, make sure they're in added, not removed. And then we're going to come down here, and this is in added is going to have our standing in water, so that we could have in our remove standing in water here, we could have actually removed it, but this is actually going to do it automatically, and it's easy to do. So over here we won't actually have to remove it, which is why you could have called this apply wet. It would have been correct. And then it'll normally expire on its own, or you'll go back into the water and it will remove it. So this one's going to be exactly the same as the other one. Commit ability, apply gameplay effect to owner. And this one is going to be the wet effect. And by adding wet, it removes standing in water. And then end ability. And then we'll go back to our original one here, and we never picked our effect, so we've got standing in water effect. And I don't think we went on this remove one, I don't think we came here. Yep, instance per actor. So what this is here, instance per actor mean there's only one copy of this ability per actor. So meaning you can't have two of these abilities running on the same actor at the same time. But I don't think we need to in this case, because you're either wet or not wet. You can't be wet twice or half wet. So we should be good. You can't run this multiple times. It means if it's already running, it won't run again. Instance per execution, you would use this on maybe an automatic weapon, right? And you're trying to shoot multiple projectile fire, and you need to have 5 projectiles or 50 projectiles on the screen at a time. You're going to need to instance them by execution, assuming that each execution was for each automatic fire, which I totally do not recommend doing. You'll basically kill your gameplay, and you might be able to have 2 people play on your server. So instance per actor is pretty common, but if you do have something where multiple copies of it need to run, 1 per activation, and they need to run simultaneously in parallel, then you'll need the instance per execution. This one can really mess things up. In particular, it says the client-side version basically can cancel the server side. The problem is that when the client hits end ability, it instantly makes the server side, as soon as it can get a message back to it, end the ability, which could potentially end the server side before it's finished. On this ability, it wouldn't matter. It makes no difference. But on some it will, so I would remove that. This was that retrigger. So remember how I said that it's only instance per actor, you can only have one? If you check this retrigger and you try to trigger it again, it'll just stop it wherever it was and start it over. If you have this unchecked like we do, and you try to activate it again and it's already running, it won't run again. So you got to make sure that all paths hit this end ability, because otherwise what happens in this setup is you might find that if one of these things stayed running, meaning it didn't get to an end ability, you won't be able to activate it again. It'll fail every time in the future when you activate it. Okay, so I think we got that set up pretty good. So now we need to go create our water volume. So let's go and go to ability system. And for abilities, I usually create a folder here called volumes, because you usually end up with a lot of them, damage volumes, these water volumes. You end up with all different volumes you can place in the world. And for this, we just need an actor, nothing special. And we will call this water volume. Okay, let's open that up. And all we need here is to add a box collision. Okay. And then from this box collision, we need a begin on component begin, and we need on component end. That should give us a begin and end on the box here, which is great. That's exactly what we needed. Let's go over to the box here and look at the collision settings. So overlap all dynamic. That should work for us for now. So we're going to do a cast, so it would stop anything that it shouldn't. So we're going to go here, and let's see, switch. As authority. So we're going to make these fire from the server side and not be local predicted. And we are going to take this actor, which is the overlapping actor, and we're going to cast to third person character with abilities, only on the authority side. So anything that's not a third person character abilities will fall out in this cast failed. For each of these we get ability system component. And we try to activate ability. Try to activate ability by class. Okay, so this one is when they enter, begin overlap. So we want to do the standing in water. Apply standing in water. And then when they leave, we want to do the remove standing in water, which will apply the wet tag. Remove standing in water. And that should be all that we need. Okay, so let's go and place one of these in the world. I'm trying to find a little bit of a low area we can drop a, I guess this is a flat area here. Maybe over here we can drop a some water. So let's make this bigger, I don't know, change the scale, maybe 20, something like that. That's a bit bigger than I want. I just want a little tiny pond. That'll work. Okay, what we're going to do here, we're going to be cheap. We're just going to drop a plane, and we'll make it a little bit bigger than the hole we've got. Drop that down a little bit, just under the ground. And we're going to go here to our sculpting tool. Ooh, that's too big. That's too small. Actually, that wasn't too small. And we're just going to go and hold down the shift key. Yeah, it's weird. Okay. Doesn't seem to be. Drag it to full toggle strength. Yeah, it's interesting. It's not... it's our landscape. Oh. Hit shift. Okay. Oh! We got a problem. That's actually as far down as it can go. We can't go any lower than that. That's actually interesting. We probably should have pulled it up some, but I guess what we'll do instead is we'll bring this up. To create a little bit of a lake here, and we'll find that plane and pull it up. Haven't run into that issue before where it's as low as we can go. Okay, and then we'll just go and pull up the land around it. We create a little bit of a pool there. That'll probably work. Yeah, maybe a little bit of smoothing so I don't get caught on any weird edges. Oh, that's okay. I think we missed this side here. Let's come up a little. Okay, so we got hopefully a little bit of a pool there. We'll then go and adjust our thing to match that size. And I found there was a little bit of a water material here. Water. Okay, this water ball one's got some kind of weird vertex shader to it, so use this water ball instance. And you got a little bit of a water thing there, and then we'll take this, which was our water volume, and we will try to adjust it to that area a little bit better. Maybe, yeah, maybe something like that would be a little bit better. Okay, so something like that. That should probably be good enough. Be good enough for this test. I got our tiny little pond. Because our enemies are just going to run over there and stand in it so we can get 100% crit chance. Okay, so we've got that. But we're not really going to see too much. I mean, we'll see it adding the tag and removing the tag and everything, but we're not going to see too much until we modify our damage. So what we're going to do for this, we're going to go back to our light grenade. I know it says light grenade, but we're going to pretend that our light grenade does electric damage. So we're going to come over to this light grenade AoE damage, and we're going to go down these effect tags. So this is on the effect itself. This is not going to add this to the person. It's just a way of tagging the effect, and we're going to say this is electric damage. Okay? So here's what that's going to let us do with the new modification in OWS. Is in our third-person character with abilities, we have a new function override called Calculate Updated Damage. And what's cool about this is you can really create a lot of functionality for your game and your combat system right in this method. It'll use this to update damage. So original damage is the incoming damage. Source attributes is the person who's attacking. You can ask questions about the person attacking me. And then effect tags are that list of effects that are on the tag, and we're going to be able to sit here and say has tag and combat damage type electric. Now, this exact match, you see how they're hierarchical? So if there was combat.damagetype.electric.some subtype of electric, if you have exact match unchecked, it'll match one or both. But exact match means it has to match all of those three pieces. So in this case, I think we're probably okay to do that, and we can create some kind of branch off that here. But we're gonna do a little bit more than that here. We're gonna go add some other functionality that we're gonna need later. This thing's gonna get a little bit big. So what we want to do is we first want to get some values that we can work with. And so one of the things I'm going to use here, not a lot of people use these local variables, but these are really useful because you get all this bloat out here with these static variables, when in a lot of cases they really should be scoped. And so we're going to scope these as local variables because we're only using them here. And so we need one for our final output damage because we're going to be rolling this up, and we're going to change this to type float. And then we're going to need, what else are we going to need here? We're going to need to derive some values. So we're going to need derived crit chance, and we're going to need derived crit multiplier. Okay, and so we're going to start by just setting these values, get their default values that we can then start modifying. So we're going to come here, and this optional, or I'm saying, output damage is this one. These derived crit chance and derived crit multiplier are from the source. So these are source attributes from the person attacking, because you're interested in the person attacking's crit chance. And the person's attacking crit multiplier. Okay, so we're going to get these default values. Sometimes I hate comments. Default values. Okay. And so the next thing we want to do is our electric damage. So we're going to grab this here, and we're going to ask the question, is this electric damage or not? So if it's not, we're going to go over here, and I'm actually going to, let's see if I can do this. I'm going to create false, and I'm going to go, and we need a reroute node that we can connect a lot of stuff to, because it's going to get complicated otherwise. And we're actually going to build the ending calculation here first. So I've got set output damage, and I'm going to random float in range. We do our crit calc 0 to 1 is less than or equal. That's going to go off into a select. We needed more room. Select is going to end up here. I guess that can go underneath. I hate laying things out visually. Code is so much better. Okay, output damage. Okay, so if it's false, we just want to set it to itself. Otherwise, we want to multiply in our crit chance. So float times float. The output of that goes into true. And we need our derived crit chance, because we're going to end up modifying this. And so we're basically saying, take our output damage at this point and multiply it to our derived, and that was wrong. the crit chance is actually going to, this one goes in the bottom one. Derived crit chance, we're interested in percentages, and we actually want the derived crit multiplier to be here, but what we multiply by. I'll grab that and pull it into set. Okay, so we've basically done our crit damage here. It's basically saying we got this crit chance of a value of 0 to 1, and it's saying get me a number between 0 and 1, and if it's less than it, it's that value. So in the case it was 5%, okay, is it between 0.0 and 0.05? Oh, yes it is. Okay, then yes, true, do this. Otherwise, just take the original. For debug purposes, we're going to do some print strings here, because we need something to tell us what's happening. Can't always see it easily. And then we're also going to take our final output damage, and it's going to go into, that's what we were trying to calculate. Okay, so both of these are going to get an append. And this one is going to tell us derived crit chance. We'll need to know this for the wet to know whether the wet is working or not. And we'll grab that derived crit chance here, plug it in, and that will tell us what's happening when it applies this. And then over here we need to know what was this output damage to see if it was scaling it right. And we will grab our output damage here. Printing these to the log will help us. Okay, so we've got that. So now let's come back here. I think we're going to need some more room. Using the arrow keys to move it over. Sometimes it's easier. Okay, so here's what we got to do. On true, we need another branch. And this branch needs to check if the ability system here, has matching gameplay tag interface call. We could do all or any, but in this case we're really just interested in one. And we'll connect that up to here. And we want to know, are they standing in water? Okay. And so it's going to run true if they are, false if they aren't. So if it's true, we want to set derived crit chance. We said it's 100%. Well, 100 is 1. So we set the derived crit chance to 1. It's false. We want to move on and check. Well, okay, they're not standing in water, but are they wet? So grab off this, has matching gameplay tag, and wet. Okay, and so what we're going to do here, this one is done. We're not checking both. So this one's done and can come back to here. And we need some more room. Okay, and then this one here is going to say, oh, they're wet. Okay, so we also want to set the derived crit chance. We also want to get the original derived crit chance. And we want to multiply it. And we said we were going to double it. So we take the derived crit chance, and we double it, and we clamp it. We don't know where that's going to get us, so we definitely want to clamp between 0 and 1, because it's a percent. And so it's going to do that if it's true. Otherwise, false was going to also come down here, and once it's done, they're all going to come down here. Okay? So this one here, add some comments. Okay, so this one here is double crit chance when wet. And this one here is 100% crit chance when standing in water. And then this whole thing is electric damage. And we will use the color here to make it yellow. Electric damage is usually yellow, right? And there we go. So now we get our initial values, and we check if it's electric damage type. We got this 100% crit chance when standing in water, double crit chance when wet, and then we calculate it all out. Here's where we actually do the crit. Let's label that one too, since we labeled everything else. This is going to be calculate crit damage. So it uses those values that we've derived, calculates the crit damage. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now we have a problem. The values are going to come in as 0. So what we need to do is we need to come over here, go to our character. So go to whichever character you're using in the third person game mode for the debug character name. Go to that one. And what you're going to find here when you scroll down is that, and I've already changed it here, but you're going to find that your crit chance was 0 and your crit multiplier was 0. So for this demo, let's set the crit chance to 0.05 or 5% and the crit multiplier to 2. Okay, come down, save those values. That's what it's going to pull in. Okay, the other problem too is you have to actually enter it, so those guys aren't going to be that useful, and they're not loading values from the database anyway. So what we're going to have to do to test this is we're actually going to have to run 2 clients. So we want to go and open up the log, clear it, go here and switch to 2 clients. This is a great way to test. And we're going to hit play. And okay, so this person I'm going to go and run into the water. So at this point we should be standing in water. And this person, wow, very interesting. They should have both spawned at the same spot. Let's give that a try again. I did notice something interesting though. Kind of fun. It's trying to get the chat manager. So where's our starting area? Yeah, here we go. Yeah, so if you want to fix that error, come up here and type chat manager BP, and we'll make sure we're in the persistent level. Just drag that out and let that hang out somewhere. I didn't notice that error last time, but yeah, it's looking for this chat manager. The OWS is looking for it, unless we disable the chat. But right now it's not disabled. Okay, let's see. Let's go to our game mode here. Third person, game mode. Test for demo. Okay, that looks good. Maybe it's because, yeah, maybe it's because they were stacking on top of each other. Come back over here for good measure. We're going to add some value to our Z position just to see if that makes a difference. So it's a negative number, so adding means lower. Let's go add a little bit, see if that makes a difference. I think what potentially was happening is with the 2 spawning on top of each other, since they both run under the same name, potentially they were... Oh no, it's actually a collision. It started above. That is an interesting error. When I tested this, that did not happen. Trying to think what could be different. Oh, what could be different is I pulled this ground up. Yeah, that's what's different. It's like, what is different here? Okay, we're going to go a lot more. You know, let's be fun here. Watch what happens. maybe we'll be able to see the, oh, that's really weird. Okay, so wait. It's not pulling that value? Hold on. Test for demo. I have a lot of these accounts, so I could be logged in. I could be logged in on the wrong account. Why did Z not pull in as the starting position of 0? Which would be way up in the air. It should have pulled that. See if there's any errors about it. Try and get its value. Incoming start location is 0. Spawn location is. So there's where it spawns at. 560. Spawn rotation. Okay, let's try it one more time. There's also this option here, spawn player at current camera location, but when you're running OWS, it's overriding all those settings and pulling the values from the database. So let's make sure when we run 1, oh, very weird. That is not, yeah, that is not the location. Okay, but we see what's happening is that we pulled, oh, dumb me. That location only gets used, yeah. This is the location that gets used right here. Remember we had to come set this? This is the one that gets used in editor. That other one only gets used if you launch the actual game. Okay, cool. And we pulled this terrain up, which is why we ended up under it. And here we go. Awesome. Switch back to here. This one's going in the water. So now I should have the standing in water effect, except I'm standing on the water. Let's fix that real quick. So grab this. No, they cannot step up on it, and no collision. We don't have water walking yet. Maybe we'll add that as a spell later. Okay, so this one's going to stand here. Okay, I'm going to hit Shift F1 because I need to get over to this log. It's got the interesting things that we're going to need to see if this worked. Okay, so what we should see here is that, look, you know what? The derived crit chance was 0.1. That is not correct. It should have been 1. Okay, so that's a problem. The output damage, though, is huge. See if the same thing happens over here. Yeah, okay, so 32 is what it normally hits for. Okay. Interesting. When I was testing earlier, I was testing with a smaller value. Okay, so we got to try to see. Oh, I know exactly what's going on. It's the number one error I make. Number one. So go to your third-person character with abilities and go to your event graph. And you see these grant abilities? If you don't grant them, you can't use them. And I forget this pretty much every time I create a new ability. And I usually am like, why is it not working? Why is it not working? And that's what it is. So always remember to grant your abilities. And so we have to have apply standing in water and remove standing in water. And now I think we're going to get a slightly different effect. I also don't love how much it's hitting for and how much we start with. So let's go here and let's start with 90. And I think we're coming off our intellect. So this person, you know what, they don't get as much intellect, they get 5. And then hopefully that will scale them down a little bit and make it a little easier to test with. Okay, 2 players. This one walks in the water, so we should have standing in water. If it's working correctly, over in this log, the derived crit chance will be 1, and it will do double of whatever the normal damage is. So we'll go attack one of We'll go over here and attack one of these to see what the default damage is. Okay, 17. With our new thing, it's 17. So we have a 17 is. I still think we got a problem with the derived crit chance, but we will see. Oh, no, okay, so look at that. So, this is interesting. Some stuff's backwards. So it got the derived crit chance at 100% correctly, but then it halved the damage instead of doubling it. Yeah, so we're going to have to take a look at, we've got something backwards there. So, but it does look like at least the tag for the standing in water is working. Okay, and now we're going to come out of this water. So we're out of that volume real quick. And we're going to, now we should get the wet effect. Okay, that does not seem to be working. We're getting a 0.1, and it should have been 0.5. So we got a problem. We got a problem. We got to take a look at. So let's go here, and most likely our problem is over here in our. I think the tags are pretty good at this point. So most likely our problem here is in this third-person character. And calculate up. See, it's under damage category. Calculate updated damage. I gotta take a look here real quick. We got something backwards. Crit chance to crit chance, crit multiplier to crit multiplier. Looks good. We ask if it's an electric type. Apparently that was working. It's true. We ask if it is standing in water, and it sets it to 1, and we notice that that was working. Setting it to 1 was working. This one's condition on for the wet is not even connected. So that's problematic. That could do some bad things. And then let's look at our formula here. We take the derived crit chance, we multiply it by 2. I think it was doing that every time because it was checked. That now explains what was happening. And let's make sure that we got this correct here. The output damage times the crit multiplier. And I have this backwards. I was right the first time. What happens when you put things in the wrong order and do crossed wires. So it is the float in range less than or equal to the derived crit chance is the right way. Okay, let's give it a try again. I think we're going to be a lot more successful. Okay, Shift F1 will get us our cursor. We go to our output log, we hit clear. I'm going to move this one into the water. We'll go over here just to make sure that the default damage is 8.5. Got it. 8.5, and the default crit chance is 5%, 0.05. So now we hit this one, and we should see a 1 plus it crit, which is a 2x multiplier for 17. It was a crit chance of 100%. That is working. So now we're going to switch back over to here. We've got 20 seconds to execute this. I think we'll be good. Pull this back over. And we fire. Okay, look, it is 0.1 instead of 0.05, so it doubled the crit chance. Now, it didn't crit. That's just a random chance. You know, we're not sure whether it's going to or not. But after 20 seconds, we should see it go back to 5%, right? And 8.5, if we get lucky enough and there's the 5% chance, then we'll get the 17. But it's a pretty low chance. Odds that we hit it here before it dies are not that high. Will we get it on the last one? No. There you go. And so that is how we can use gameplay tags to manage our gameplay state. And you can use it for anything you want. I've even seen some cool things where people modified their animation blueprints to use gameplay tags to manage some of the animation state related to combat. So you can use them all over the place. They're a great way to manage state, and by using the gameplay effects, they're automatically replicated. One final thing that I did want to do, I think we made a mistake. It's just a policy, so it may not have caused us any trouble, but I do want to do things the right way here. So we're going to go back to our abilities under combat state. We're going to open up each one of these, and these are actually server initiated, because if you remember over on the volume, this water volume here, authority authority. We're not running on the remote. They are not. Server initiated, and the remove class defaults, server initiated. It's just a policy. It's a safety. In this case, it didn't cause any issues. You know, there's one other thing too. This one has remove standing in water. I want to latch this and make sure that we can only remove it once. So we're going to say here on remove standing in water, we're going to say that it can't run unless it has standing in water. So you can't remove something you don't have. So we're going to come here, state standing in water, and this is on the required. So we did blocked on the other one, on the apply, so you can't apply it twice. And now for the removal, we're saying you have to have it to be able to remove it. That should latch it and stop them from running over and over. And there you go. That's all I have for today. And I'd love to see some gameplay abilities you guys come up with. So if you come up with anything cool, let me know. See ya.